Puerto Rico!
Welcome to Puerto Rico. On behalf of everyone here, we hope you're having a good time here on our island. It's nice and hot outside.
What is this dish? Boco? What's it?
Mofongo.
Fongo, oh my God.
That's how you get all work, jacked up.
Dear
like that.
God, listen, at my booth there's a picture of me with my shirt off and there's like a six-pack and I've got my hands on my
That's
hips.
Photoshop, dude. Come on.
Listen, if I eat like I do in Puerto Rico, I'll never have that six-pack, man. The food is so good, it's crazy.
Nice,
Great.
nice. Awesome. So you've been here for a couple of days now. What do you think of the island? You've been out,
Yeah, I went
aside from the
to
show?
oh God, what's the name of it? Went someplace last night. It was what's funny about this spot, La Placita.
Placita, wow.
Yo,
Yeah.
there was one place to eat, some chicken or steak skewers, 50 places to drink. Yeah, that's how you do it out here. Huh? It was great though, man. The people were great. I mean, listen, you can be we do cons all over the world and a lot of different places. It's always about the people. And the people of San Juan and Puerto Rico have been fantastic. You guys have been great. So thank you for being so hospitable.
Well, thank you for coming down and visiting us. So why do you think the series, Arrow, is so popular? I mean, what's up with that?
Well, no one knew, right? No one knew Arrow was gonna, Arrow, the Green Arrow, arguably, you can't see it now from the success of it, but arguably to begin with, it's kind of a sub-tier character in terms of his popularity, right? There's Batman, Superman, Flash, much more popular characters than Arrow. So when Arrow first hit, believe it or not, we were really being compared to the success of Smallville,
Okay.
which went for 10 years. So we had some big shoes to fill, and we shoot in Vancouver. Much of the crew had even worked on Smallville before they came over to Arrow. So nobody knew. I mean, Stephen Amell, our great leader of the show, was relatively unknown, and this huge responsibility got thrust on his shoulders to carry this show, and just no one knew. So we're very, very grateful, and it's really the fans. I mean, the fans have really made this successful. You guys have done this. The 4 spin-offs, Flash, Supergirl, Legends, and now Black Lightning. I mean, you guys all made that happen. And it really is a testament to, I think, just in a direct answer to your question, I think the human element, right? This is a guy with really exceptional abilities. But I think Arrow, as opposed to the other shows, there's a certain amount of, if you can be real as a crime fighter with a bow and arrow.
Yeah. Well,
but there's a certain amount of grounded element to Arrow, and I think people just kind of have latched into the relationships on the show.
All right. And specifically about your character, John Diggle, is that something that you feel has evolved throughout the seasons so far?
I think so. I mean, just going back to what I said at the beginning with, I mean, Steven's character, Oliver's top 3 fighters in the world, right? Felicity, one of the top 3 smartest people in the world. Diggle's just a regular guy, right? Joined the military, decided to help his community by fighting crime, really. But he's just a regular guy that did a few tours in Afghanistan, and I think in that sense he's very accessible. So I think his evolution has been wonderful. Last season we had a great arc with his brother, but I think just in terms of who he is, his sense of loyalty, his sense of responsibility, I think people just kind of latch into that and kind of identify how he's a protector of his family, of his friends. I think he's probably the most normal of the group.
Now, do you you say he's the most normal of the group, but obviously he's a normal guy in extraordinary circumstances. You personally, David Ramsey, do you feel you have any type of connection with that character?
Well, we both love family, right? I have a 6-year-old boy who I'm just in love with. I mean, so I identify in that sense to John Diggle. I don't know if I had a friend like Oliver, if I would be as giving. He kidnapped my wife, man. His best friend changed my little girl to a little boy, man. I know, but it's still his friend. That's not cool, that's not hot.
No.
So, listen, David Ramsey would have cut this relationship off a long time ago. But, you know, so like John Diggle's, he's an exceptional friend.
All right, and that's interesting. Now the whole element here between the comic, you know, obviously the Arrow, Green Arrow, and the TV show. In terms of production and the writers and all that, how do you see that team working to be as true as possible to the comic, or they take creative liberties?
Well, obviously they take great liberty, right? I mean, going back to the relationships, one of the biggest relationships on the show, Oliver and Felicity, is not in the comic book. Diggle doesn't exist in the comic book. He does now, but at first he didn't. And that was another relationship that just jumped off the screen. I mean, obviously there's a certain amount, that's really a producer question, I'm not a producer of the show, but there's a certain amount of liberty they've taken. But the audience really kind of lets us know, I think, a certain amount, to a certain degree, what relationships they're really identifying with. Not to say that everything's written for the audience, but I think there is some sort of reaction that the writers and the production gets that they heed to a certain degree.
All right. Now, in terms of the superhero universe, you know, you have on the big screen movies, you have the classic characters, Batman, Superman, you know, the Avengers and all that stuff. On the small screen, we're seeing Flash, shows like Arrow, and I don't want to say non-traditional heroes, but you have this sort of another tier of heroes, and, and they're having, you know, success. Legends of Tomorrow, and all, you know, like I said. Why do you think that's happening?
Well, I think some of it is politics, right? I mean, clearly these are Warner Brothers properties. I can't speak in terms of Marvel's and some of the other shows that are not DC or Warner's, but in terms of Warner Brothers properties, this is, you know, every single time there's a character on our show, there's some sort of check and balances that goes through in terms of DC and Warner Bros. I don't know, that's way above my pay grade in terms of who that goes to. But there's approval and approval and approval and approval. And, you know, and the public, you know, the fans are well aware of this. We had, for example, in I think the second season, as we started to experiment with the Suicide Squad, Harley Quinn.
Yes.
And, you know, there are some issues with that. And again, this is way above my pay grade, but I think some of what was happening with her ended up being just kind of a voiceover, and you saw her from the side. And that wasn't originally what was intended, but there's a long list of people that kind of have to approve of this. So we killed our Deadshot and our Amanda Waller, and there are some things around that. So I don't know how that is attached to what they want exactly. Like I said, that's above my pay grade, but you know, that's part of the game. You know, so getting back to what you're saying, how do we these smaller characters on the TV? I don't know how it works in terms of having these big, huge characters like Aquaman, and I can't wait to see Justice League, by the way.
I'm with you.
And Jason's a good friend, and I just rocks Aquaman. I mean, just a beast. Man, I got invited to the Wonder Woman premiere, and I had to miss it.
This weekend?
But I was in San Juan, Puerto Rico,
well,
baby.
Yeah, you had to be here, of course.
But
you know, Jason was here a few years ago. He was here, Jason Momoa.
Yeah, I know. He told me about it. He was like, dude, San Juan's great. They're fantastic. No, he loves this place. But I don't, you know, you're right. Some of the bigger characters are in the film. Some of the smaller characters are on television. I don't know. I think again, it doesn't matter how small the characters are or how big the characters are. It's about the writing.
Yes.
And it's about the connections, the relationships. The reason why Arrow and Flash particularly have jumped off the screen is because of these great relationships within these stories.
You know, fans, as a fan, this whole crossover episodes, you know, the Arrowverse. I mean, that is something that really gets me excited. Gets, I'm sure everyone here excited. What's happening in the Arrowverse that we can expect in future seasons?
That's a great question. Again, you're asking fantastic questions. Some of it I have the answer to. A lot of that is producer executive answers. But you know, season 5 was about trying to get back down to some of the nuts and bolts of Arrow, right? Some of the way we started, kind of being street level crime fighting, away from some of the magic that I think and the supernatural things that we kind of got into in seasons 3 and 4 particularly. And I think we did a good job with that. And I'm not quite sure what exactly how that theme will continue in season 6. The island, as you know, is gone.
Yes. So
there's no more flashbacks. You didn't like the flashbacks? So that's 7-8 minutes or so of television, of storytelling that now we have to get into. And so there are other stories to tell. I mean, Diggle particularly is married to the leader of Argus. That's a great story. What is going on with the Suicide Squad? How do the prisoners on Argus and in Argus, how does that feel? I mean, we have that story alone is a 6-episode arc if you wanted to go there. Then you have these other new characters. So I think we're going to delve into a lot of the other supporting characters next season. I don't know that for sure, but 8 minutes worth of television is a lot of storytelling.
Yeah, for sure.
My question is, when you started doing the performance as Diggle, how do you felt when they told you, you know what, Diggle is gonna be introduced in the comics section and it's because of you?
No, it's because of you. No, it really is. The fans did this. The fans identified with the Oliver Diggle Felicity relationship. That was something that really jumped off the screen and the fans latched onto it. And there was a big speculation for a while, particularly during seasons 1, 2, and 3, of this character, John Diggle, being John Diggle Stewart or John Stewart Diggle, and that whole mythos. And that was put to bed by the higher ups, by the producers. But then and that was a little disappointing, to be totally honest with you. But then I got to really think about the idea that this was an original character that never existed before. And we got to create and still create a mythos in John Diggle, a.k.a. Spartan, that will be around. The next 20 years from now, someone else will play Diggle. And it started here, and it started because of the fans. Demanded that we see more of this character. DC listened. And in the direct answer to your question, how did I feel? I mean, like, forever John Diggle as a Green Arrow comic book hero, that's awesome. So I was incredibly proud and grateful, really, to just kind of be part of this. Again, no one saw this coming. No one knew this was going to happen.
What is your favorite cast member in Arrow, and what is the funniest moment you've had with them on set?
Yeah, well, Stephen Amell clearly is my favorite because
he's the boss.
But not only that, but we just crack each other up. Next to Stephen, and it's really a very, very, very close second, is John Bell. Let me put it like this. If me, John, it happened less this past season because John was doing Legends of Tomorrow. But certainly in the previous seasons, if there's ever a scene or a moment when me, John, and Steve are in a scene together or even around each other, and you see that particular take on television, that was the only one we did without laughing. And that was the only reason why it got on television, because we weren't laughing. So, I mean, we just crack each other up. And listen, man, I've said this in conventions before. You ask what's the funniest thing, it's very asinine, juvenile behavior. Okay, we work 12 to 14-hour days. So this isn't highbrow humor. This is fart jokes and, it's just dumb things. So I can't really name anything specifically. I mean, we step on each other's foot, we hit each other in the ear, we thump each other on the forehead. I mean, just dumb things that keep us entertained. I mean, that's the direct answer, but going further than that, you know, again, we do this in a box. We shoot 10, 12, 14-hour days. We go home, go to sleep, get up, work out, do it again. Particularly me and Steve. That's what we do. So when we come to the conventions, we're a little taken aback, but it's like, wow, you know, this really touches people. And because we don't see it up in Vancouver, man. We like, look at Arrow. We're shooting at nighttime, in the dark, all the time. Flash, however, it's all bright and pretty. Get to shoot in the daytime. Don't get me started. But anyway.
It's like East Coast, West Coast, everything.
Yeah, it is, right? It's a little rivalry, but anyway. So we're very grateful anytime we get to these conventions, man. I mean, it never gets old for us. But we have a lot of fun because we do shoot very long hours.
What do you say to the people that wish that both universes were combined, like the TV universe, the Arrowverse, and the DC expanded universe, the movie universe? What do you say to the people that wish there were only one, and what do you feel about that?
That is a loaded question.
Tread lightly.
Tread lightly. I have bosses.
Next.
You know, no one would have loved to have seen Grant Gustin more than me up there playing Flash. I think Grant is an incredible Flash. I'm really looking forward to Ezra, though, to be honest with you. I haven't seen it. I saw the clips. I mean, just jumps off the screen. I think he looks incredible. So, like the Spider-Mans and the Batmans and that have been played before by different characters, I think it's great. I think it's fantastic. But at the same time, knowing that, you know, we all have an opportunity to carry this mythos into a larger medium like films would have been awesome. But I get it. I get it as a business decision, and I get the idea of having these different people put their stamp on these characters. Again, Diggle will be played by somebody else many years from now, and so I get it. Would I have loved to have seen it? Absolutely, but I certainly understand it.
Thank you. You played that very cool.
My question is, what was the most fun you guys had during the filming of the Invasion crossover with the cast and crew? What was the most fun you had during that crossover?
Some of the jokes are X-rated, so dirty that we can't talk about. Okay, but some of the most fun we had were in the pods. Like they'll say rolling, and we'll all be turned around, like with our butts facing the cameras. And I mean, that sounds really like not funny, but we were crying laughing. I mean, some of the stuff was just, you know, during Invasion, it was just running around the halls of the set that was supposed to be the spaceship, and we were all in pajamas, or that was supposed to be our pod, our abduction, whatever clothes. You know, I wish I had something like that particularly was funny. But again, when you're working in this box for 12 hours, like we do some of the silliest things that just make us laugh. So
you have to be there, you know.
You just it is kind of you have to be there. But yeah, the funniest thing about Invasion, I think also, man, seeing the aliens. I don't know how they look to you guys on camera. But they have basketball players, like, playing the aliens. Really? So they had these 6'10" dudes, like, walking around in these alien outfits. And they looked hilarious, like, on set. We were just, like, cracking up, like, you know, drinking water, like guys, you have any idea of how ridiculous you are. So it's just funny stuff like that, man. But, that was a lot of fun. We got a little away from, again, Season 5 was a little more grounded, but clearly the abduction episode was not. So we'll see what this year's crossover is, man. You know something? Put it on Twitter. What do you guys like to see as a crossover? You know what I mean? Like I thought Supergirl could have been more involved, to be honest with you, in the crossover. I would love to see how we kind of tackle the crossover next year. We'll see.
Hey, David.
Hey.
Hey, future Sailor Marquez here. My question is this. Which would be your top 3 picks for DC villains to come into the Arrowverse in the coming seasons?
Number 1, the biggest villain / we're not quite sure if he's a villain. Will be Bruce Wayne.
You heard it here.
I would love that. I say that every place I go. That's like, there's your ratings. Like Bruce Wayne's coming, or we're going to Gotham. One or the other. And by the way, this isn't so far-fetched. I don't know, by the way, so I don't know anything. But if you remember, if any of you guys followed, the conventions and the fan circuits and just hearing what the producers were saying back in season 1, they said publicly, there will never be 2 cities mentioned in our universe. Metropolis and Gotham. And there'll never be 2 characters we talk about. Superman and Batman. Guess what? That's right. Not only talk about me, Superman's in our universe.
Yeah.
Right? So, and by virtue of that, Metropolis is there, clearly. So, I don't know, but I would say the number 1 person I would like to see is, we're not quite sure, is he part of the League right now? Is he a kid that his parents just died? Where in the world is Bruce Wayne? So, if he is a full-grown vigilante at this point, we got to play with that vigilante thing to me, right? Yeah. So, to me, Bruce Wayne, number 1. Number 2, Manu Bennett, okay?
Yeah.
Destro.
Yes.
Like, our best bad guy, even though Adrian Chase was really, really good. This is really, really good. Manu Bennett. And I just think when he came back to when I saw the clip of him coming back into the finale, it just gave me chills, like Manu, Destro. I mean, that's our bad guy. Our third, now since a certain thing has occurred in the finale, which those of you who have not seen it, I won't give away. It'll be interesting to see if Thea wanted to cop revenge, if she's still dealing with some of the issues of which we haven't talked about, though, by the way, like her coming back from the dead and what that does. Now that a certain person has left her life, who she's had a interesting relationship with, what does this do to that character? And what does that do to her relationship with Oliver? I think that's something you want to explore. I'm just saying. I don't know. I'm not a writer or a producer. But, just as I'm a fan and I'm a geek, right? So I want to see that explored. So I would say, in terms of bad guys / good guys / villains of next season or following seasons, I would say Bruce Wayne, Deathstroke, Thea Quinn.
Nice. Great. Thank you.
That's my opinion.
So what is your favorite line in your character?
You ready? I have it. I'm ready. You ready? No, Oliver.
That's a winner.
Yeah, next question. That's it.
Thank you.
Hi, David.
Hey.
We know recently that Stephen Amell competed and completed a full course in Ninja
And
Warrior.
rocked it. Didn't he rock it?
Yeah.
Just ripped it.
So my question to you is, do you feel up to the challenge for it? I mean, would you like to do it, compete in it, or against him?
Yeah, I mean, me and Steven always have a healthy little rivalry, right? I mean, it's funny too, because Steven's really up my game. It was funny, when I met Steven, I've told this story before too, Steven had a few weeks, maybe even a month or so to train. So when I first saw him, it was like actually when I first saw him, he didn't really look, you know, I saw him in Vancouver, I met him, blah, blah, and it was cool. I didn't really get to see much of his size. He was wearing a big shirt. He was very friendly, and Katie met her, and it was very nice. But then maybe a week or so later, there was a photo shoot that we had to all do promos. And we had these different rooms, and I went to Steven's room, and Steven was like, I heard him in the room as the door was open. I was passing, I passed, and so I said, hey Dave. So I go back in the room, and Steven's doing whatever, and he has his shirt off. So he turns around, and it's like, boom, muscle, just muscle in his head, muscle in the back of the neck, like, and his earlobe was like muscular. It was like, I was looking at him like, I'm your bodyguard? Like, for real? I mean, the dude was just jacked everywhere, right? And he was acting like I wasn't supposed to notice. So he was like talking about some other stuff, and he's just sitting around like, yeah, Dave, so, you know, and I'm just watching, looking at him. What time is it? Yeah, exactly. So after that encounter, I realized that I had to kind of hit it hard, and I did. So, and that was good. That was good for me too. So we always kind of had this little healthy rivalry. I can't do any better than he did on Ninja Warrior. I mean, he just rocked it. You know what I would love to do, even not so much even against Steven? Yeah. I would love for me and Steven to do that against another show. Like, call out the Supernatural Boys. You know what I mean? Like what?
That would be nice.
Jared and Jensen.
Yeah.
Little skinny asses. You know what I mean? Like, come mess with me and Steven. You know what I mean? For charity.
We got to Twitter that. I like that.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Or anybody else. I'm actually writing a check for Steven that he may not be able to cash. So let me just. But that's what I would like. I wouldn't want to raise money against Steven. I would want me and Steven to raise money against someone else. That would be fun. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Good question.
Thank you.
Who is your favorite villain from the whole Arrowverse?
Yeah, well, you know, I love Manu, right? I mean, I think he is the villain. I just can't say enough about him. You know, Manu is a method actor. That's great. But Manu's real intense. And he's less now, but when he was on the show as a regular, Manu would get ready for the scene and be down very low. And he would run around the set, you know, and get really ready. And there was a scene, you know who I miss? I miss Colton. I really miss Colton Hayes. And there was a scene, man, I gotta tell you this Manu story because it was awesome. I know you got a long line, but I gotta tell you this. And if you guys remember the episode, Manu kidnapped Colton. He had him strapped up to this thing, and he had these other guys around. He was going to inject them all with Mukuru. Remember that? And there was another woman, her name escaped me, Summer. In the scene, she comes around, Arrow drops down from the ceiling, the glass breaks, he comes and unstraps Speedy, he's gonna take him back up, and then Summer Glau's character comes around, she has a gun on Arrow, but Diggle shows up on the balcony, right there, pow, shoots Summer, she falls dead. Okay, you know that scene. All right, maybe you don't. If you do, get season 2, check it out. Anyway, but in the scene, I'm standing on the balcony. About 20 feet below, there's Colton. He's facing me like this, strapped up. So I can see him, he can see me, but no one else can see him. He's looking right at me. His eyes are closed like this because he's supposed to be unconscious. Okay. Action! Summer Glau comes around. She gets the bead on Arrow, drops down. I get the bead on her. Pow! She falls dead. Manu Burnett comes around the corner, and in his angst of seeing the dead Summer Glau, he goes down to her body and goes, "Ah!" Colton, who nobody sees except for me, is on the bench like this, and he goes,
The dead guy.
he's shaking because he can't control the laughter, right? He's just like. But there are a lot of instances, man, with Manu, where he would just make a choice that would just make us all go, wow. So, not only was he major entertainment on the set, he's just a fantastic actor, man, and I think he just embodied Deathstroke, just embodied it. So, I would say Deathstroke.
If you had the power, well, in the studio, let's say they say, hey, David, which superhero would you like to be? Who would you choose?
Hey, don't look at me.
My favorite, I have a lot of favorites, but I love Moon Knight.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, you guys weren't expecting that, were you? Yeah, Moon Knight's my favorite character. Yeah, I would love, I think that's just a character waiting to be ripped up. All white, I mean, who's in all white?
Yeah, it's like a dandy.
That's kind of dope.
Yeah.
Yeah, Moon Knight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, David.
Hey.
Huge fan. You mentioned Thea earlier, but what other storyline would you like to see more of?
Well, again, I think that's a storyline waiting to happen with Thea. I think we should make a decision on Oliver and Felicity, get them together or apart, one or the other, get that out the way, and just make a decision. That's all. But you know, for me, I think if they're together, it should be kind of like Diggle and Lila.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of fact they're together. No big deal. Whatever. Keep it moving. You know what I mean? So, or they're apart. I think just for me, I think there's a storyline there that has to be flushed out. Finally. All right? To me. Thea, obviously. There's a big chunk of what happened on the island and what she feels about that we can just delve into. Diggle and Lila, she's the leader of Argus, for God's sakes. Like, what does that do to their household? His son grows up to be Connor Hawk. Give me a break. I mean, that's like rich. We can do some time traveling. Who the hell is Diggle's doppelganger? Right? Is it the lantern?
Again,
I'm
don't look
just
at me.
saying. I'm not a writer
But,
or a producer. I'm just saying. You know, was Diggle hatched or does he have parents? Have we seen his parents, for God's sakes? Everyone has parents on this show except for John Diggle. Okay. I'm just saying. Okay. So there's a story, right? So, all right, and then you have the backstory of Renee.
yes.
All right, you have the backstory of the new Canary. You have the new Black Siren, Katie Cassidy. Welcome back. Her redemption story or not redemption story. Is she a bad guy? Is there a team up bad guy between the Canary and Speedy? Who knows?
Question. Your character started from a military man, a bodyguard of Oliver, until now into just a family man, was also the vigilante known as Spartan. How did you cope from this point to now how Diggle is? Did you imagine that, or was that something you actually like that to happen?
Well, a couple of things. Number one, practically, Diggle could no longer run around while you had Speedy in a red leather outfit, Green Arrow in a green leather outfit, the Canary in a black leather outfit, and Diggle in jeans and a bomber jacket. You just couldn't do it, right? He had his clock, and everyone else was superheroes. So practically, he had to get some sort of concealment and armament, and we wanted to make sure that was in some way practical with his characters. We made Kevlar and some camouflage, some other stuff that is still going through iterations. We have to find out what the heck this helmet does, by the way, which is another story. Anyway, listen, again, Diggle has been through his catharsis. He's been through his Afghanistan. He's been through his island. Arrow is a character that the hero's being created. I think that the Diggle-Lila relationship and Diggle as a character is probably about 3 or 4 years more evolved than Oliver. He's adjusted to the idea of being both a father and a vigilante. Oliver is still struggling with that. He's still trying to figure out how he can be true to his family, have a relationship, be a vigilante, deal with his darkness. He's still figuring that stuff out. Diggle he's been through that. And that's why he's such a wonderful friend to Oliver, because he can mentor him. And he can deal with his post-traumatic stress syndrome, which is exactly what Oliver's been dealing with. So, and he understands that as a soldier. So I think Diggle has made the adjustment. So how is that done? I just think just understanding the character. I think John Diggle is a very evolved character, probably the most evolved of the group.
Thank you.
Hey,
thank you.
Hi, I just wanted to ask you, where do you wish to see your character go in the series?
It's a great question, and for a very evolved character like Diggle, where does Diggle go, right? I think you explore some of those relationships that you haven't seen, the ones with his parents. Lila, again, is just waiting. The future of Connor Hawk. You know, does he have a future encounter with his son, who we found out earlier, lives in some regret because he couldn't save his father, John Diggle. There's a story right there, right? So I think some of this kind of these other universes you can play with John Diggle, his doppelganger again, like what's happening in terms of that. So I think there's a lot more to explore. And also I think the Oliver Diggle Felicity dynamic, which I think is one of the strongest things on the show.
This is a quick question. Now that it's been season 5 and all the flashbacks could be over, or there will be flashback for the new season, or what's gonna be the focus on the story?
I don't know if there, as far as I know, no more flashbacks, as far as I know. Now, unless you guys have heard differently, that's what I know. That the show inherently had a 5-year life, because there was 5 years worth of story we had to tell about the island. I think we did that. And from my understanding, now that's over. We have 8 minutes of television to tell, and we have to fill it up with some other stories.
Thank you.
Hello, David.
Hey.
Welcome to Puerto Rico.
Thank you.
At the beginning of the show, this one, you said you like mofongo, and I wanted to know, have you ever gone or ever wanted to go to Orocovis to taste the food over there?
Did I ever want to go where?
Orocovis.
Orocovis is a town in the central part of the island that specializes in fried pork and mofongo and all that good stuff.
They make that stuff? Yeah, I want to go, man.
It's high up in the mountains.
Oh, is it mountains?
Yeah, it's a mountain range.
Do I have to walk up to it?
We'll deal with that later.
Yeah, the answer is yeah, man. Wherever there's fungo, I want to be. This stuff is so good.
Thank you.
Hey, bro.
Hi, David. Thanks for coming to Comic Con. Dexter is one of my favorite TV shows. So my question for you is who is your favorite cast member to work with, and what do you thought about the ending?
Ooh.
That's a loaded question.
That is a loaded question. Michael C. Hall is brilliant. I mean, we haven't seen enough of him. I miss him on television. I miss seeing him. I would love to see Dexter reprisal. I think, not killing him and him living with his dark passenger up as some lumberman in Alaska. I think that's a story that hopefully those producers and executives want to tell. I don't know if Michael wants to tell it, but I would love to see that. Jennifer I had most of my work with her. She was fantastic to work with. My first scene of the day was a scene in bed with Jennifer.
Really?
Yeah.
How does that work out?
What was funny was that Michael C. Hall was behind, he was looking at it on the monitor. And, it was kind of weird because, after you're kind of done in the scene, I kind of look over the monitor and he sticks his head out and goes. So Michael was the best. He was the best.
How would you convince someone who hasn't seen your show to watch it?
That's a great question. I would first ask them if they like stories with a lot of action. I wouldn't ask them if they're comic book fans, because I think you could be a fan of Arrow without being a fan of the comic books. Because I think it is first loaded with action. There's a lot of human drama. I think there was a time when I could have said there's a certain amount of lightness to it, because there were some funny elements. But I would say that if you like a lot of action, if you like a lot of human drama with your action, a lot of cool relationships, I would say watch our show. I think it's a lot of fun. It's a little dark, but I think that's the appeal. So I would start with that. Good question. Thank you.
The finale in Flash, it was like Flash revisiting what he did in Flashpoint.
Right.
And that he did it like selfish and everything, and it was like his past was haunting him. Do you think that plot made a little bit or helped in Arrow's season 5 plot?
I don't know if it helped in part of it, obviously, because Flashpoint. To be honest with you, I'm a big fan of the whole Flashpoint kind of mythos and storyline and Injustice. To me, I don't know this. It feels like the movies are kind of following the Injustice theme, and the television shows, the DC Universe is kind of following the Flashpoint theme. It feels like. I don't know. And of course, they kind of jump in and out, and like I said, those are political decisions. I don't know. But yes, Flashpoint did affect our universe, namely Diggle, with his child being affected. I would love to see how much further that goes. You know, the Flashpoint cartoon, or not cartoon, but the animated movie was wicked, man. And I would love to bring some of that stuff to our universe. You know, again, these characters are so rich. There's even an answer to the question before, where would we like to see the stories go? Just open up the comic books. There's tons of stories to tell in the Arrowverse. So, yes, I would love to see Flashpoint go even further into season 6 and see how it affects us. I think the future Connor Hawke and John Diggle is a relationship waiting to be told.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, good question.
Hey David, it's nice to meet you. I love your character in the series. However, besides Arrow, what character would you like to play down your career?
I know, right? What character would I like to play? Well, listen, every black actor of a certain age in the U.S. at one point wanted to play Luke Cage, but that's all now. What are you gonna do? And of course, there was a time when I wanted the Power Ring. But you know something, I don't know. I would have to. That's a very, very good question. I think you know, there's. I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna answer that when we get to the end. When we get to the end, I'll answer your question. Okay, I promise. I have to think about that one. That's a good question. Thank you.
Welcome to Puerto Rico, David Ramsey.
you.
I'm a huge fan, especially when I saw you as Spartan.
Oh man, thanks, brother. Thank you.
I wanted to ask, how did it feel when finally, the Arrowverse went along with the Flash, and then John Diggle had to act all impressed about Barry Allen being a meta-human?
That was one of the funniest things, right? The fries throwing, man. That was one of the funniest things. Because Andrew Kreisberg was on the set that day, and he was like, dude, when you see Flash, I want you to freak out. And I was like, okay, freak out. So I took fries. He was like, no, go big. I was like, can I go as big as I want? You're like, just go huge. So I did, and it was funny. We wanted to do something bigger for Supergirl. We wanted to see him go across the horizon and do something really silly for Diggle, but it ended up being something else. But it was great, man. For me, I love the crossovers. I would love to see a few crossovers a year. I mean, that's the stuff you want to see as a fan.
Yeah, that's
you want to see these team ups. I personally think that we can go even bigger with the crossover next year in terms of just, like the ante being raised. I don't know what they plan on doing, but I want to see, more DC Universe characters coming maybe in the crossovers. That's where you see Lantern. That's where you see maybe some other characters that you would never have seen in the regular shows in the crossovers. And that makes the crossovers even more special. Because now you might just have these 4 or 5 show crossovers, but you're going to see a character that you won't see. And that little Easter egg can be there. Again, I don't know what they're going to do, but as a fan, I would love to see that.
Great, nice.
Nice question.
Thank you.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Hey.
Welcome to Puerto Rico.
Thank you.
As a fan yourself, are you Team Canary or Team Felicity for Oliver?
What's up with these people?
They're just trying to get drawn.
You want some water?
You want to die right here?
You want to drink or what?
I got friends. Yeah. Well, I tell you something. In terms of the two actresses, they're both awesome. I think I've always loved Oliver and Laurel. You know, I've always loved that in the comic book. Reading the Injustice series of how Oliver Queen gets killed by Superman and how the Canary goes berserker and takes a pill and she's going after Superman. And people who know the comic book series know what I'm talking about. But just that thing, you know, that Canary, that Canary Arrow, Green Arrow relationship is just something that I love. But I can't deny what you see on screen. You know, between the chemistry between these two characters. I don't know, how about this? Since there's so many Earths,
There you go, yeah.
we can have it both ways, can't we? Oliver has slept with all of Starling City anyway.
And thank
He
you very
slept
much.
with everybody except for Diggle's wife, or hasn't he? I'm just saying. So, to me, go to one of these Earths and see it happen, you know. I don't see why you can't have both. So, there you go. That's my answer. That's a very political answer. Now,
So yeah, let's
in
tackle
answer
that.
to that question.
Let's tackle that last
Very
question.
nice question. Very nice question. Was there one more? Or was that it? Okay.
We're good.
I would like to see a character, I would like to play a version of this character in human form, but you don't know it until later. Galactus.
Whoa! Nice.
I would like to be Galactus, but not the way you've seen him. I would like to be, no one knows it. He's a regular dude and he's gonna take over Earth, but he's maybe an executive. Maybe he's a head of a corporation or something, and then he comes out as Galactus. Oh my God. Anyway, I just found out up on this stage that I'm a writer. I just found it out today. Puerto Rico, thank you.
Un aplauso.